Hello, my friends. Weekend greetings, or whenever you may be watching this in the future. It's being recorded on a weekend anyway, and what a spectacular weekend it is. We're really on a roll with the weather here. Just an absolutely perfect day today, giving thanks for it. And today's talk, we're going to talk about the path to happiness. I kind of got into a thought, like I was just kind of reading some stuff yesterday afternoon. It got me on a thought process, and I kind of did a deep dive into happiness and reading things about happiness and listening to a kind of a couple of talks on happiness. And what set it off, I believe, was seeing a quote that I've seen many times. And the quote is, "There is no path to happiness." Uh-oh, I gave away the secret right at the beginning, as that's the title. There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. Now, I've heard this one attributed to the Buddha before, and I've also heard it on one of those fake Buddha sites, like it's not something he said. I've heard Thich Nhat Hanh mention it before, so it really doesn't matter if the Buddha said it or who said it. I mean, truths are truths anyway. And, I just kind of got thinking about happiness, my way of expressing happiness, my thoughts on happiness. And I don't have a long reading today. I'm going to mostly just kind of tell you some thoughts of mine, but I did have one little succinct reading that I really liked. And it's titled, "There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path." If your happiness lies in the things that you don't have yet, then you will never be happy. Let that sink in for a minute. If your happiness lies in the things that you don't have yet, then you will never be happy. You will never be satisfied with what you have, and the process of finding happiness after having little more things will never go away. If you are thinking that you will be happy when you will have a better job, more money, or more time, then that's just your misunderstanding, because that is never going to happen. You will always crave for more, and you will never notice the things which you already have. Don't see your happiness as a destination. See it as a journey. Appreciate the relationships, things, and life that you already have. You won't be able to enjoy all of it at any later stage of your life, because it's happening now, right now, in the present moment. Live in the present. Be proud and happy for your accomplishments. Keep on doing better every day, but don't postpone your happiness. Thought that was a good one there. It's about choosing happiness. I know I've talked in the past about choosing happiness, but it's been a long time. And, choosing happiness is something that I have practiced and focused on over recent years, as I've had some struggles myself. And I just believe that, and it's hard because, even though I've struggled a little bit, my struggles are nothing compared to other people. And I always try to be aware of that and be respectful of that. But then you see people that have horrible circumstances, horrible things have happened to them in their lives. Maybe they're still in a horrible situation, and they manage to be a happy person or find some sort of happiness. And that's where you can take a lot of inspiration from, is not people that are doing well and are telling you they're happy, not social media influencers that always have this happy look on their face. Actually, people that have found something that is, maybe a true happiness, a simple happiness, and a happiness that's not based on anything outside of themselves. So choosing happiness, I believe that chosen happiness is even just a little bit sweeter than just happiness because it just falls into your lap. Happiness because good things are happening around you. When you choose that happiness, it's a little bit sweeter than just everyday happiness. It's almost like oxygen when you have a hard time breathing. If you've ever been deprived of oxygen, deprived of air, and you're all of a sudden, you get a big burst of air. There's nothing sweeter than oxygen. I've been held down years and years ago when I used to surf a bit. I've been held down a number of times in the ocean, and it's just very much, there is no breath as sweet as when you haven't had it. So just something about that chosen happiness has always kind of just made it feel even a little bit more special. And an example of that in my life is, and it's ironic, it's been 9 years now. This past summer was 9 years that I stumbled into a little situation, and I was locked up in immigration in Panama for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Now, before I even get into it, it's not a locked up abroad type situation. It was immigration, so it wasn't like it was dangerous. I was fighting for my life. It was actually pretty decent treatment there, and even like the food. I had been vegan for about a year. The food wasn't the stuff that I generally ate, but it was the stuff that people in Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua ate all the time. And I did enjoy the beans and rice some because, that was one thing that I could eat. But the conditions weren't that bad, but we were locked up. We were locked up. And let me tell you something. Doesn't matter what conditions are somewhere. When your freedom's taken away from you, it can be, it's not a good thing. And when I first, when I kind of first got caught with the little situation I was in at the border, yeah, it produced anxiety. But it was almost like, and I was very kind of new to this whole this kind of spiritual process about happiness, letting go, and true happiness and things like that. And in some ways, I look back and I'm like, have I taken steps backwards along the spiritual path or whatever you want to call it? Because in a lot of ways, that was a profound, you would think, this is very ironic because you would think like maybe I would consider this the worst period of my life. But in a lot of ways, I experienced a profound happiness in this situation like I've never experienced before. And I still take that with me to this day. I got out the notes that I made because every day over 3 weeks while I was in there, I wrote every day. I mean, I wrote and it was an oversized piece of paper. I would write just, and not very big print. I'd do a page every day. So I left there with like 20 pages of notes. And I go back and read these things and the thoughts that I was having and what I was doing and how my day-to-day played out. This was before I had an iPhone. At the time, I was still doing a flip phone, but social media, Facebook, and that kind of stuff. And I was on a computer every day. And for 3 weeks, I slept on an army cot. I had no gadgets. I had no computer. I had no internet. I didn't have any TV, but I had no obligations. I just woke up every day. I did a lot of, my days were spent writing, meditating, praying, interacting with a good Lebanese friend that I met. And, but it was just the first time that I realized this. And the second that they got me in the first little cell, this little holding cell, I got locked up in the night before I got taken to the detention center. All I did was breathe and pay attention to my breath. And all I kept telling myself was, okay, in this moment, you can choose how this is going to be. You have the surrender was I had no control over this situation. I could rant and rave and stomp my feet. I could be freaking out. I could be, well, I wasn't going to cry. But I could be unhappy, I could act out, I could do whatever. But I was still going to be in this situation. So from that second, and like I say, I was just, I was only a year removed from being a drunk, or a little bit more than a year removed from being a drunk. And it was just very powerful for me to just decide. And I remember there was this guy in there, we just called him Cuba. Yes, Cuba as in the country. He was from Cuba. He had been in there a long, long time. He had some difficulties because I forgot his story. I forget if he was Cuban. He was from Cuba, but something to do with some political type stuff. He didn't actually have a country. So anyhow, great big dude, probably about 250 pounds, a great chess player, would play people two at a time at chess. And I remember when I first came in there and he'd see me meditating or do this, and I'd be laughing or something, and I forgot how the conversation came up, and one day I told him I was happy. Even though I was locked up in here, I was happy. And he was like, how are you going to be happy? And we got having some really good conversations over the course of weeks, and I just told him, well, I chose to be happy. I don't have any other choice. What am I going to do? Just be miserable? And for days and days, especially actually he kind of did it the whole time I was in there because we got to be friends, and it was just kind of him teasing me, joking with me. Every day after that, though, he'd walk by where my cot was, and he'd say, Hey, happy boy, are you happy today? And I'd be like, yep, Cube, I'm happy today. And he kept doing this for days and days. But I noticed something where he just kind of started looking at me differently and paying a little bit of attention as it just went on. And he saw that this wasn't going to fold or it wasn't going to go away. In fact, he actually ended up doing me some real solids while I was in there, and I'll always, be real fond of him. But yeah, I learned during that time and that happiness. There was something I took from that I don't think I've ever properly sat down and reflected on all the lessons there. One day I'll take those notes and do some writing from those notes when I'm ready. But yeah, I really found in that experience, and I started trying to always apply that ever since. And a few years ago, when I was really in isolation and it was just spending a lot of time by myself, I would remember these things when I would get into a little bit of depression, or when I was really starting to get a little anxious or whatever. I would just remember I can choose happiness. I can go for a walk. I can see a bird over here. I can just start, being grateful. Gratitude helps a lot with your happiness. That's something that I've also used in extreme, like in times where I'm really down, is just start like pulling everything out of there. What are you grateful for? I got a roof over my head. I got food in the kitchen. My health is relatively good. I've got a car out there that will take me places. And you just start listing things that you can be grateful for, and that'll pull you out of it a little bit. But it's never going to be about things. There's never going to be something in the future that's going to give you happiness. If you need something to give you happiness, you shouldn't need something to give you happiness. But it's always a work in progress. It's easier said than done. And like I said, that was just kind of what I was pondering on yesterday. So I thought I would share it with you, and maybe it'll help somebody out there, just kind of like work things out for themselves. But anyhow, just my 2 cents worth. Hope you guys enjoyed this one today. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. Have a beautiful start to the week, and I'll see you here either tomorrow or Tuesday. Peace.